Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic:
what's a sign that someone is way smarter than they let on? I agree with most of the replies here, but I'll add my 2 cents. I think people who meet you on your wavelength are smarter than most. They can talk about pretty much anything with anyone. They'll shoot the shit with some people, discuss politics with others, listen as well as talk, ask questions, but also will take time to explain things if they're asked. In unfamiliar settings, highly intelligent people often repeat themselves in different ways, at different levels. First, they will offer the expansive big brain answer and hope to be questioned on it. If that provokes nothing of substance, they will retreat to refine the message in common terms without extraneous information. If that fails to land, they will meet the audience at their level and lead them towards understanding the concept being presented from the perspective of the audience. Intelligent people realize that effective communication requires reading the room and adapting the message to provide inclusive momentum. If the message isn't received, their words spoken are merely noise in place of opportunity. Intelligent people value their time and will not be inefficient like that. If the message isn't critical, they will move on to make an impression elsewhere to a more receptive audience. Intelligent people want to be questioned and challenged. This is what keeps the cycle of enlightenment and curiosity fueled. No inspiration equals no motivation. Edit to add: I wish I could be more involved with this thread. Duck at work dealing with a mountain of insanity. Oh well. I am by no means super intelligent, but I do know a little about a lot. I do the exact opposite process of what you said, except I sprinkle in jokes that anyone who is more than a layman about whatever I said will pick up on. Those are the people I'll focus in on talking to. To be fair, my life currently revolves around being around a lot of people who are uninterested in learning anything more than what they already know. I cannot for the life of me remember who it was about, but there's some quote about an extremely intelligent colleague who was so good at speaking to children on their level that the speaker wondered if this colleague was perhaps using that same skill on adults. Edward Teller talking about John von Neumann. People who ask perceptive questions, which show a deep and considered comprehension of what's being said and meant, and how this interacts with the wider picture. Next door neighbor's 4-year-old son would ask me what I was doing, then ask why. I'd explain what I was doing and he'd continue to ask why. I'd continue to answer until he got the reason into his head. Next door neighbor apologized, but I told him that his son is showing intelligence by getting to the root cause of his curiosity. I think a light clicked in my neighbor's head as I realized his loud hollering FTOM their house has quieted down quite a bit. This comment made me sad. I don't have the patience, energy, or money to have kids, but these interactions where it feels like you're literally watching a child's brain grow seem like the main reason to have kids. Why are people even having kids if they don't want to meaningfully engage with them? Sad face. I need to call my parents and tell them how much I love them, loudly crying. Admitting they're wrong. Reconsidering positions based on new evidence. Curiosity. Curiosity is a big one. This is the thing I don't understand. I have that curiosity and a drive to understand things deeply. I'm smart, according to tests, but I don't feel smart because I'm not very successful in life. Yet I'm constantly coming across people who are incurious and I find it baffling. I can't fathom going through life that way. I don't mean that in a superior way, I just don't get it. Very quick wit. You have to be smart to process and deliver. Humor is the highest form of language. Robin Williams was a great comedian and he was also brilliant. Truth. You have to have a strong understanding of language before you can successfully play with it. I use Conan O'Brien as my example. Guy plays it up that he's a klutz, but H is a Harvard graduate who knows how to make a joke about anything. Someone who can explain a very complex topic to a room full of lay people is usually pretty good at what they do. My husband's childhood friend is working on his PhD in physics. I am not math-brained at all, but the way he describes math concepts in a way that is understandable while not being condescending is incredible. He is of the opinion that anyone can learn advanced math as long as the teacher is motivated to teach. He was a tutor for some time, and I'm sure students probably fought over him for help. It's one thing to understand something complex. It's another thing to understand it so well that you can explain it in easy terms. The fact that they're not letting on how smart they are. It's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Quote. Takes one to know one. Quote. Swish. Good comedy. There are so many great comedians who play dumb and make jokes about how stupid they are, but I think you have to be quite above average intelligence in order to be a really great comedian. I think intelligent people see the absurdity of situations and can articulate it well for others. Comedy is intelligence having fun. Studies show humor is a sign of intelligence. Absolutely this. I'm a substitute teacher, and the difference between the class clown types who think they are funny but really just disruptive, and the ones who are actually funny but know when to shut it down, is very clearly correlated with intelligence. It's actually interesting to see how many different views on intelligent people seem to have. If we talk about logic, smart, then a subtle sign is worrying about obscure edge cases too much. Emotional smart, bringing up stuff that reassures other people before they bring it up. Yeah, I think I've read like 80% of the comments now. Some say school smart, a taciturn person, big words. It's crazy how people conceive the single word, intelligence, in so many different ways. I subscribe to the idea that there's multiple types of intelligence. I have a mate who didn't finish year 12, but he can fix anything, build anything, engines just run better if he's around them. Total mastery of the physical world. You'll never, ever convince me that he's not brilliant, even though he hasn't read a book since he was 12. My conclusion is that there must be different types of intelligence. He has one, not others. Other people are better with books but worse with the physical world. Endless curiosity. The opposite of this is something that bothers me pretty badly. It concerns me that some of the people I'm very close to never seem to just wonder about things. I spend many hours each week, broken up sporadically, of course, just wondering about something and then looking it up. People who don't do that, I just can't understand it. To me it feels like an itch I need to scratch, or it'll end up bugging me later anyway. It's hard to imagine some people don't experience this urge. How can one be content wondering about something and just as quickly move on to the next topic without finding an answer or learn more about the previous thing? Why? After I complimented a very smart and successful farmer on his operation, he replied, "All it takes to be a farmer is a strong back and a weak mind. A trained monkey could do my job," said by the sharpest guy the first ever worked with, as he was converting my measured values to hexadecimal in his head as he input adjusted CNC parameters. One little thing I've noticed is intelligent people tend to laugh at jokes faster than the average person, because they got it right away rather than having to process it and figure out why it's funny, or laughing just because everyone else laughed. Admit it, you're talking about yourself, smiley face. That's this whole thread, every time it shows up. Usually twice a week. Actually taking a moment to contemplate an argument they disagree with rather than just reflectively dismissing it. Smart people are willing to have their assumptions challenged and reevaluate them. This may be true in terms of social intelligence, but some of the most academically gifted students I had as a teacher and classmates I have in medical school have been some of the most, "I am right, don't challenge me on it," type of people. Having taught med students at two pretty prestigious schools, I think the admissions process tends to select for a very specific type of intelligence: strong memorization skills, wide but often shallow knowledge base, quick decision-making, confidence that leans towards what you're describing. Being a successful physician often does not mean thinking deeply about a problem, but rather using heuristics and deductive reasoning to quickly find a likely solution. Because time is often a factor in determining an appropriate medical intervention, it's often a good approach for treating patients. There is often a benefit in trying something even with incomplete information that might wind up being incorrect. But where a lot of MDs get into trouble, and annoy the ever-living shit out myself and my PhD brethren, is thinking that way of problem solving is universally ideal, regardless of context. Academically gifted and intelligent are not the same, whatever you want to call it. Academically gifted in that context requires a certain level of rote memorization and pattern recognition, and nothing more. Those people may become successful doctors, but they are also one of the reasons that there is so much animosity toward the profession. How dare you? Are you saying your 25 years of living with your illness could let you challenge the 2 lectures I slept through in medical school about it and the 3 conversations I had as a resident? I'm going to make a nasty note in your chart and recommend a psych referral. They are also exactly the people who ridiculed and helped drive Semmelweis crazy when he had the temerity to recommend doctors wash their hands before delivering babies. Lawyers tend to be more curious and open than doctors, probably because they tend to be challenged on a more regular basis. After med school and residency, doctors are rarely challenged, and their CME is not particularly serious. It's also why gatekeeping is so important to them, as their perceived authority is one of their most cherished and fiercely defended characteristics. Hence their snarky, "Oh, did you Google that?" quote. The fool considers himself to be wise, while the wise man considers himself to be a fool. Shakespeare, somebody who knows and understands that. The more you know, the more aware you are of the things you don't know. That right there is something I wish everybody would take to heart. They actually listen and ask questions. They tend to be interested in many different topics. They are naturally curious about many different things. I'm a retired florist, I'm into muscle cars and classical piano. Fucks the hell out of the algorithm. Taciturnity. Many quite smart people that I know are 90% taciturn. They don't want to share their thoughts in front of many people, but when you talk to them one-on-one, they share facts, knowledge and thoughts and you instantly think, wow, guy, I didn't expect from you that. Yes, in many ways they are just introverts. Today's standards are very low. You'd be accused of being snobbish just because you used taciturnity in a sentence. When you use a word so obscure that even well-educated people don't know its meaning, it comes off as more ostentatious than a strategy to increase intelligibility. Lol, I'm paradoxically an introverted chatterbox. The nature of my job requires a lot of superficial, light-hearted interaction with hundreds of people each day, so it helps that I'm a friendly person. But I spend most of my free time silent and either reading or just wrapped up in my own thoughts. It's always funny and a little sad to see the surprise on my coworkers' faces when we have a more in-depth interaction and they realize that I'm fairly knowledgeable about a wide range of topics and not just a brainless, smiling small talker. One coworker recently asked an offhanded question about why certain words in English were written and pronounced the way they are, and I started excitedly sharing about the evolution of language and the descendants and subsequent divergence of English, Dutch, and German from Proto-Germanic. She just kind of listened for a while and was like, how the fuck do you know all that? Tears of joy. Another one was amazed when I created an intricate new tracking system for our workplace in Excel. Not really my job, I just saw a need and created something intuitive to fit. She ended up copying it to use for her department and kept saying, OMG, I didn't know you had this in you. I'm no genius, but I'm reasonably bright. Apparently I come off as a dipshit on the surface, though. Melting face.